अस्सलामुअलैकुम नाज़रीन, लंदन विद रिजवान रशीद आपकी खिदमत में हाजिर है। और आज का ये प्रोग्राम खुसूसी अहमियत का हामिल है, वो इस वजह से कि ये चौथा एनुअल गाला है हेल्थ केयर के हवाले से लंदन में। और उसकी खुसूसी बात यह है कि जो इंतज़ामिया है ये पिछले 4 साल से हेल्थ केयर से रिलेटेड जितने भी प्रोफेशनल्स लंदन में मुकीम हैं उनको एक फोरम पे इकट्ठा करते हैं। उस फोरम पे उनके साथ एक्सपर्ट एडवाइस और फ्यूचर में आने वाली चीज़ों के बारे में शेयर किया जाता है। एक वेरी इंफॉर्मेटिव और नॉलेजेबल सेशन है। मेरी ख्वाहिश होगी आप इस फोरम में आएँ, उसको देखें। मैं आपको इसका हाल अहवाल दिखाने जा रहा हूँ। उसमें बहुत सारे अच्छे स्पीकर भी हैं। मैंने जैसे स्पीकर सबसे पहले हैं डॉक्टर नबील सुल्तान, वो बात करेंगे करेक्टर डेवलपमेंट इन मेडिसिन। बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक है, वी विल ट्राई टू शेयर दैट टू। डॉक्टर वहील हदारा, न्यू इश्यूज इन इस्लामिक मेडिकल बायोएथिक्स। ज़बरदस्त फ्यूचरिस्टिक बात है। और डॉक्टर जावेद सुकेरा, रिकॉग्नाइजिंग एंड मैनेजिंग इम्प्लिसिट बायस, मेंटल हेल्थ के हवाले से बड़े ज़बरदस्त डॉक्टर हैं, ये भी इसके बारे में करेंगे। उसके बाद पैनल डिस्कशन है ऑन रीट्रेनिंग ऑफ फॉरेन प्रोफेशनल। तो आइए देखते हैं 4th नेशनल गाला फॉर मेडिकल प्रोफेशन हेयर इन लंदन। इसके बाद
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم من أجل ذلك كتبنا على بني إسرائيل أنه من قتل نفسا بغير نفس أو فساد في الأرض فكأنما قتل الناس جميعا ومن أحياها فكأنما أحيا الناس جميعا ولقد جاءتهم رسلنا بالبينات ثم إن كثيرا منهم بعد ذلك في الأرض لمسرفون إنما جزاء الذين يحاربون لعلكم تفلحون. صدق الله العظيم. جزاكم الله خيرا for the time.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Rizwan. So thank you for all coming. This is our 4th annual gala, alhamdulillah. And it's nice to see new faces and old faces to make the new connections. We have a nice program, inshallah, for you tonight. And inshallah, you've taken time to come out for this event. But also, as one of the organizing committee members, I would like to encourage more people to come and inshallah partake of this journey, which is to help to organize an event like this, so that we can get the input from you, and also that we can make it more diverse. Because right now we have a lot of physicians, and it seems to be physician focused. And I'd like to have more people from. We have, mashallah, 1 pharmacist on our committee, but more dentists and allied health, physiotherapists, etc., so that we can give a broader sort of a theme to the program that we have. So next program for next year, inshallah. Enjoy the program, and inshallah we hope to see you next year again. But please make sure you visit all the sponsors and give your feedback at the end of the event. Assalamu alaikum.
Hi, good evening everybody. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First of all, welcome to the event. I'd like to lay down a few ground rules that we'll follow so that we have a speaker. Is Dr. Nabeel Sultan. He is part of the faculty at Western. He's a nephrologist by training. Dr. Sultan is, I guess, what you can call a great teacher because he's done a master's in teaching from the University of Toronto. And he's been researching innovative methods to improve training for medical students. He is a part of the Canadian Education and Research Innovation Society. So without further ado, I'd like to invite him on the stage. Thank you.
Okay, assalamu alaikum.
and to share with you some of the work my team and I are working on in the university from a medical education perspective. So character-based leadership is a topic that I've become interested in the last 2 or 3 years, and it's an area that's sort of relatively new to medical education and has been more incorporated in other areas outside of medicine. So within 10 minutes, I'll try to give you a snapshot of what this is.
Critical care medicine at Western. He holds a portfolio of associate professor. And he basically is researching, I've written this down because it was difficult, his research lies at the intersection of medical education and sociology of medicine. And it highlights ideas in medicine we think which were unreplaceable in a historic, which have indeed changed with time. So I'll invite him over. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here, and just up here to all the organizers, Dr. Sardar and Muaz and everyone else. It's a great event, and hopefully will continue to grow. Before I launch into the piece on ethics, I just wanted to say something or follow up on something that Hamza mentioned. So my own personal story in terms of how I got into medicine, I'm a pharmacist by training, and for those of you who are still pharmacists, I'm still registered with the OCP, I'm a registered lead. When I applied to medical school, I applied to 6 medical schools. I was rejected by 4. I got 2 interviews. I was rejected by 1 of the 2, and then I was put on the waiting list at the last medical school, Queen's University. It wasn't the last guy that they accepted. We know that because the last guy they accepted, his name didn't show up on any of the class lists, but it was the second last guy that they accepted. So we are where we are by the grace of God, honestly and truly. And if, for people who've had challenges in terms of finding that medical school spot or that residency spot, it's not about you. It's about a system that is, that has much more demand than it can provide training spots for. I was asked to give an update on Islamic medical ethics, and I'm sure many of you are following some of the stories that are developing or coming out of the news with probably a considerable degree of alarm. I want to structure my thoughts around 3 headings. I do not have any slides. I stopped doing the slides a while ago. But the 3 headings I want to talk about are, number 1, sort of grand challenges in medical bioethics. Number 2 is going to be sort of a very brief kind of exploration of why we have those challenges. And then the third part is where does that leave us as Muslim physicians or clinicians, not only physicians. This was not meant to be an election sort of speech, but the election is an opportunity to influence those things. Being engaged, understanding which parts it has, the political platform that can support these kinds of actions is what we can do. And so there is this expression that I will close with. I am one, sorry, I am only one, but I am one. And I will not let what I cannot do get in the way of what I can do. We can't influence the big conversations. We can influence equally big conversations that happen on a one-to-one basis, and we should as clinicians. Is that the one? Thank you.
So there's 3 different kinds, so don't worry if you won't match with everybody. I mean, not everybody has the same, there's 3 different ones. So the first one, you guys are allowed to go around your table and mingle and everything, but the first one to shout out bingo, and everybody I think knows, so I'll just explain. Not only across or diagonal, but the whole sheet. Whoever shouts out bingo, there's a prize. So please don't forget to put your name somewhere on the paper. And you put in for, if there's more than one, we'll put it in. And the first one to shout out bingo. So don't run or rush over, but try your best. And we have 15 minutes for this. And also I'd like to thank
appreciate very much the opportunity to speak to you this evening, and I very much appreciate the organizers. You don't really see it when this event comes together, but there's so much hard work and volunteerism that's dedicated to making something like this happen. So I want to congratulate the organizers and the team that put this together. So I get to talk to you about implicit bias, and I'm going to start off with a demonstration. I'm going to put up 2 pictures on the screen. I want you can write it down or make a note for yourself, to actually rate each picture in 2 domains. And you're going to be rating them 0 to 5. The first thing you're going to rate is their warmth. 0, no warmth, 5, very, very warm, someone you might want to meet. And their competence. 0, completely incompetent, and 5, someone that's highly competent. And it's best not to think about it, just go with your instinct. We're going to put up each picture for about 5 seconds, and you're just going to score them for yourselves mentally. 0 to 5 warmth, and 0 out of 5 competence. Just think, what would I give this person? How warm are they? 0 to 5? And how competent do I think they are? Warm and how competent. All right. So, this comes out of research from the 80s in the US, which found that we are making micro-judgments about people within seconds of meeting them. So when we see someone, we instantly are praising how warm we think they are and how competent we think they are. And that's directly associated with what we do next. So if we look at the graph, it's very fascinating because you look at groups like black professionals. You think of someone like President Barack Obama, a social group that we're biased to think of as highly warm and highly competent. But in the bottom left, people who are homeless. In the top left, we see people who might have developmental disorders. The term is from the study, it is not my term, it is not an appropriate term to use on the screen. But people who have developmental disabilities, we're much more likely to be empathic towards them because we believe that they're not responsible for their illness. But if someone has mental illness or addictions, that's not the case. And on the bottom right, you see that we see people who are rich as highly competent, but less warm. So if we go to the next slide, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand, if you're brave enough, and show me what you rated this gentleman for warmth, 0 out of 5. What did you give him? 4s, 5s, 1s, 2s, 1s. Okay, there's a contrast here. What about competence? 4, 3. Well, this gentleman, his name is Jim Fetterman, and he's the mayor of a town called Braddock, Pennsylvania. The tattoo on his arm is actually the zip code of the town that he's the mayor of, and he's a Harvard-educated expert in municipal governance. And he goes around the country lecturing on the topic. Next slide. Does anybody know who this is? Does anyone not know who this is? Raise your hand if you don't know who this is. So what did we give him? If you don't know who it is, what did you give him for warmth? 2. Raise your hands. 2s, 3s, 4s. Competence? 4s, 5s. So Ted Bundy was a notorious serial killer. He was very competent at what he does. But this image is the prototype of what we associate with success. If we Google the term CEO, we don't see women. We see pictures that look like this. So this exercise highlights for us that we make these judgments, and many times these judgments can be flawed and very dangerous. So that's what led me to think and talk about implicit bias. And what is implicit bias? Well, we're all familiar with explicit bias. Explicit bias is things like Islamophobia that certain political parties might have, or sexism, or racism. It's when there's a conscious intention to exclude or discriminate against. Implicit bias is when we have negative beliefs about a particular group or concept that exists outside of our awareness and influence us automatically despite our best intentions. So we know that implicit bias affects us in healthcare, as this graph shows us a study in the US. where they asked physicians who were treating black versus white patients for a cardiac problem whether they had explicit racism. And these were not racist. They believed in justice and they believed in fairness, but they were still significantly less likely to recommend this treatment to black patients compared to white patients. Their intentions didn't matter. And what correlated with their behavior was their implicit bias. Now, why implicit bias matters is because if you belong to a group that experiences this bias, when you encounter the healthcare system, it erodes your trust in the system. If you're a black woman getting unequal treatment compared to the white woman next to you, or if you're a woman who's getting unequal treatment for heart attacks, if you're someone who suffers from mental illness, like in this slide, the people who I see at Victoria Hospital, instead of encountering a system that's compassionate, you encounter a system that makes you feel blamed and shamed. To this day, if someone is 19 or 20 and they're really struggling with suicidal thoughts and they need to be admitted to the hospital, just go back for a sec, they do not even get a bed right away. Mental health is underfunded in our system by $1.5 billion. If two patients walk into the hospital and one has mental illness, they leave with a 12 to 18 month wait, whereas someone with physical illness has access to world-class care. So in the context of these disparities, I thought to myself, I'm watching this happen, and yet the people who are doing this, they're good people. They're not bad people. And I began to appreciate that the way that we talk about these problems like bias or racism or Islamophobia is problematic. Because the way we talk and teach about them is based on this idea that, well, there's a good group of us, who don't have bias. And there's a bad group of people who do. And if only we just have the good people round up all the bad people and tell them to stop, we can fix the problem. But that's ridiculous. Because the truth is that all of us have bias. This is an intrinsic human trait. And if we keep this conversation going, pointing our fingers at each other, we're not going to move the needle forward. So in my research, we found that we have to start the conversation by looking in the mirror at ourselves. So what we began to do is we started to give people feedback about their bias. But as you can imagine, if someone's a hardworking health professional like yourselves, and you tell them, well, guess what? There's this thing called implicit bias, and it's going to influence you despite your best intentions, and you know what? It might make you discriminate against other people. That information is not going to be met with comfort. And that's what we found. In fact, it highlighted for us that in healthcare, these people said, well, I can't have bias. I'm a professional. And professionals don't have bias. And I have to be perfect. But of course I have bias, because I'm a human being as well. So what this highlighted for us is that in healthcare, how we teach and talk about the problem really matters. If we go to the next slide and think about the discussions we have and how perfectionistic we are, we really have to ask ourselves, are we striving for something that's impossible? Are we teaching ourselves to make progress? Or are we just making ourselves burn out to try to achieve something that's completely a fantasy? It's a fantasy to imagine that we can be free of this kind of bias. So the model that came out of our research highlighted that you can get feedback about your biases, you can reflect on these biases, but it isn't until you begin to appreciate that we can strive for that ideal version of ourselves, but we have to accept that as humans, we are intrinsically flawed, vulnerable, and we have shortcomings. If we don't balance this idea of striving while accepting, we can't move forward and create the kind of change that we need to address these very challenging problems for us in this society. So it's tough to distill all this work into such a short talk, but there's three core themes that resonate with the talks that you heard earlier this evening. If we want to challenge bias, we need to have courage. We need to have courage to call out the norms that are in our society that are biased. These biases are reinforced by the messages around us, And it takes courage to say, no, this is not right, and to go against the grain or swim upstream. But it also takes courage to admit that we're vulnerable and flawed, especially in healthcare. And if you think of compassion, of course, we want to see every person as a unique individual, not as a label or a stereotype. But our research has shown that we can't expect to have compassion for our patients if we don't practice compassion for ourselves. And the last point about connection is so important. What do we do when we encounter challenging situations? We usually walk away angry. We walk away and we talk about it to someone else. What we need to do to address this challenge is to lean into the hard conversations. We need to challenge ourselves to connect with the people that challenge us the most. We are all part of the same human family, and we all share the same vulnerabilities and shortcomings. In our polarized society, it's hard to do, but we need to do a better job of leaning into those conversations. The other really important thing to consider is something we do in healthcare all the time, is we see a horrible, difficult problem, and we think we could just throw people into a workshop and educate them to fix the problem. But that's not how bias works. If we want to address bias, we need to work on individuals, but we also need to work on our organizations and society at large. If we want to fight bias against mental health, we need to advocate for equitable funding. Because if, God forbid, our child or loved one is suffering, they deserve nothing less. We need to fight to change our organizations and their policies while working at an individual level. And that's my talk. So thank you very much.
We can open it up for any questions.
So is implicit bias training a real thing? Like, you know, for police officers or things like that? Is that a real thing that you can do?
Yep, that's what the whole construct of the research that I've done was, to look into designing training and evaluating whether or not that training is effective. So I think the problem is, right now when we look at issues related to diversity or racism, whether it's in policing or healthcare, we're prone to look for quick fixes. I get asked all the time, oh, can you run a workshop for me? Can you just come train people? That's not how it works. Even the training is only effective as certain conditions exist. And in those conditions, that training has to be specific to that context. I think the problem with addressing these very difficult issues is that we try to just check the box and do a training to make ourselves feel better. But the truth is, it takes a long time and lots of individual and structural change. Addressing racism and sexism and these issues like Islamophobia is not about just doing a checkbox. It's about a continuous process of improvement, of striving while accepting. So yes, it is indeed a real thing, but it doesn't just work by doing it as a one-off. Any other questions?
So, in your opinion, and we're talking about different biases here, but in your opinion, biases against mental health, let's say, do you think it's more because of a certain stereotype, or is it because something that's not tangible and not easily seen?
It's absolutely a stereotype. I think part of the challenge in medicine is we like to be fixers. We like to intervene. When we did our initial research in the hospital, the strongest stereotype that existed at an implicit level towards patients with mental illness was that they were unfixable. And so physicians and nurses would avoid that because it didn't feel good to feel like you can't help someone. But the patients and caregivers perceive that avoidance as judgment and discrimination. I mean, one way to think of it is, how many of you have ever had to call Rogers or Bell? Anybody? Yes. So if I have to call Rogers, my blood pressure is pretty high, right? Because I'm sensitized based on my experience and biased towards Rogers, right? I'm ready to be transferred 30 times, to have a disconnect, to get frustrated. So when people experience that same treatment in healthcare, there's a bias that goes both ways that erodes the opportunity for us to help people. And the issue with mental illness is that mental illness is more complicated than other things. At times it's invisible. But what's interesting is I actually work in a pediatric pain program. And pain is invisible too. But there's lots of stereotypes and associations we have. We're much less likely to be helping towards someone who's struggling with mental illness than we are if someone has lung cancer, even if we attribute blame for the illness. So it's complex, but yes. All right, thank you so much.
All right, so the next is our panel discussion. I'd like to invite Dr. Kandil for being the MC for this session, and I'd like to invite the four panelists, Dr. Nuha Walbaki, Dr. Inas Almajar, Naseem Palda, and me, myself. So,
that I have faced when I arrived to Canada. This was in 2006. At that time when I arrived, the main challenge I had was English as a second language. My dentistry was taught in Syria in Arabic. So my first exam, 3 months after arrival, I read the exam paper. I was not able to understand 50% of the questions because of the language barrier. We worked, my husband and myself, we worked really hard. On the first exam, I scored 67, allowed me to do nothing. I did it like Dr. Hidara said. The second trial, I scored 84, still allowed me to do nothing. I did not give up. On the third time, I scored the highest score in Ontario, which was 98, allowed me to open the gates actually to many dental schools, Dalhousie, Western University, and the decision landed on Western University. So English was my first challenge. Having 3 sons, 14, 11, and 2 years old. I have to be full-time mother. I have to study at night after putting my child to bed because I want to succeed. We decided that we will not depend on any government aid except for the child care. So our budget was limited for 2 years. We have enough fund for 2 years. We decided if we seek any help, at that time we will be lazy. No, we will work hard and we will succeed. So we succeeded. We got admitted at the school. My last challenge was having no support, no extended family. Nobody was there for us. It was just these five family members that should work hard and should set the bar really high for our sons. I remember when I graduated from Western University, I got invited twice to the stage.
Award. Well, thank you very much. Now we're going to have Inas Al-Najjar. She's going to tell us about her field in pharmacy. What are the obstacles that were facing you whatsoever? Please go ahead and we'll ask the questions on the end again.
Assalamu alaikum everybody. I am a pharmacist here. I have been practicing for 6 years. I came to Canada in 2006. My challenge was the emotional load about missing my career life. It was really tough emotional load because I missed my work, my colleague, my lifestyle. So I tried my best to stay positive. So staying positive, focus on it. I can do it. It just will take some time and effort to be there. So try your best to have that positive mindset and to work hard and accept.
A little bit different in a way. I came as a student because my husband came for fellowship and I applied to the University of Calgary at that time. So I did my education in Alberta and to master's program. So I came right into a master's program, and that was a research-based master's program. As you can imagine, when I was working on this research project, I was getting paid as a student. So I'm practicing right now as a anatomical surgical pathologist. The year I came to Canada, I had done FCPS in pathology from Pakistan, which is like FRCPC in Canada. I wanted to get this master's in molecular and genetic pathology done and go back home. During that time, we ended up staying. So then I started having these difficulties, as Nuha mentioned, the same way. started worrying about getting into the system. How do I get into the system? Mind you that I came with 2 very young kids and was pregnant with 3rd child. I was on a student visa, so no ability to work or anything. So finances were tight and everything. But I was lucky enough that from that research project, I was getting enough money that I was not a burden on my family to pay for my exams and everything. So once we decided, during that time, the 2 years program, we for different reasons decided to stay in Canada. So now I turned into my LMCC exams. And the same story as the 2 of you told. I was walking through the library, talking to a few.
Working in research, I completed my master's in clinical research from Western, and I'm working in research in anesthesia and orthopedic surgery. So I guess for me, the biggest challenges over here was organizing, both these ladies were talking about organizing the funding, organizing time. I think that's the biggest challenge that I faced. I was organizing funding, I didn't have time. I had time, then I had to balance all of that. Once I was done with my exams, then I have to, there's a lack of opportunities. Obviously, there's limited seats and they're all very competitive. But I think for all the people who are in this process and are going through it, I guess, I have a firm belief that I'll get where I want and the competitive seats that I want, but for all the people who are going through it, I think just keep trying, make connections. I feel communication as IMGs is key. I've seen so many IMGs. They're brilliant students. They have worked really hard, but I think the one thing they lack is they don't communicate enough. And I feel as IMGs, once we get to Canada, there's a sort of a growing we need to do in the Canadian medical culture, and I don't think you can get that without being a part of the system. So you can get observerships, you can work in research, do what you can, go at odd times, bug people, and try to get in touch with the medical system so that you can get where what you have sacrificed all the time and money for.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa wala. Jazakallah khair very much for the introduction. And can we give a big round of applause for all the organizers here? What an incredible work. Honestly, this has really been one of the most fascinating events that I've been to in the last while. As you can imagine, I go to lots and lots of these events. But let me just point out, the 10-minute lectures were just really cool. But I'm going to make you guys sit through an hour. So, no, just get it.
ये था नाजरीन 2019 का 4th हेल्थ केयर गाला, जिसमें आपने स्पीकर्स को सुना, जिसमें उसने पैनलिस्ट को सुना, और सबसे अच्छी बात ये हुई कि सब ने अपनी स्ट्रेंथ एंड अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ को शेयर किया। आपने सुना स्पीकर जब करैक्टर डेवलपमेंट मेडिसिन में डॉक्टर नबील ने बड़ी इन डेप्थ बात बताई कि कैसे लीडरशिप एंड करैक्टर के लिए वो रिसर्च कर रहे हैं, हाउ दे आर क्रिएटिंग द ट्रेनिंग प्लेटफॉर्म यूजिंग वेस्टर्न फोरम एज वेल एज अदर वन। और आई थिंक ये बड़ा ज़बरदस्त एक राह है कि हमारे मुस्लिम डॉक्टर्स फिजिशियन इस बारे में तहकीक कर रहे हैं कि कैसे हम इसको चीज़ को आगे लेके आएँ। उसके अलावा डॉक्टर विदील ने न्यू इश्यूज़ इन इस्लामिक मेडिकल एथिक्स स्पेशली मेडिकल इंडस्ट्री में बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है और बड़े ही डिफरेंट पॉइंट से हैं होंगे। उसके अलावा जावेद चुकेरा ने इम्प्लिसिट बायस पे जैसी मिसालें दी, वो ज़ाहिर है हमें मालूम है कि इंसान कैसे सोचता है, कैसे रंग और नस्ल में फ़र्क करता है, कैसे सिर्फ देखने की सलाहियत से एक डिफरेंट सोच रखता है। उस सोच को कैसे बदला जाए, उस सोच को कैसे इम्पैक्ट किया जाए। डॉक्टर जावेद चुकेरा ने बड़ी तफसीली ये बात की, और मैं पर्सनली उनको जानता हूँ कि वो बड़े डिफरेंट फोरम्स में कनाडा में बल्कि बैनुल अक़वामी फोरम पे इस बात पे بہت کام کر رہے ہیں اور اس کے لیے فنڈنگ کے لیے بہت کام کر رہے ہیں تاکہ جو مینٹل ہیلتھ کی جو فنڈنگ ہے وہ بڑھائی جا سکے. تو بندہ جو بتا نہیں سکتا, جو بندہ جو درد سے بلبلا رہا ہے دماغی طور پہ, اس کو کیسے ریلیف کیا جائے. تو اس کے علاوہ پینلسٹ میں بہت سارے لوگ تھے, تقریباً 4 ڈاکٹر, فارماسسٹ اور نئے آنے والے اور پرانے جو انہوں نے اسٹارٹ کیا ہے. مجھے ہر ایک کی سٹوری سے یہ سن کے محسوس ہوا کہ ہر امیگرینٹ کے ساتھ ساتھ ہر قابل پرسن, تعلیم یافتہ انسان کو بھی جب امیگرینٹ کرتا ہے تو ان کو تکلیف ضرور ہوتی ہے. وہ ایک مشکل وقت سے ضرور گزرتے ہیں, لیکن وہ اس مشکل وقت میں اگر پرسسٹنٹ رہیں, اگر وہ ڈٹرمنیشن کے ساتھ رہیں, اگر ان کا پرپس ویری کلیئر ہو تو وہ اس پرپس کو پا لیتے ہیں. جیسے ہر پینلسٹ نے آپ بتایا ان کے ڈفرینٹ صورتحال تھی, مشکلات تھیں. کسی کو سسٹم کا معلوم نہیں تھا, کسی کے پاس نیٹ ورکنگ نہیں تھی, کسی کا ریزومے نہیں تھا, کسی کے کنیکشن نہیں تھے, کسی کے پاس فنڈنگ نہیں تھی, لیکن ہر ایک نے ان سب مشکلات کا بخوبی مقابلہ کیا اور اس مقابلے کے بعد وہ آج اس فورم پہ اس فتح کے ساتھ شامل ہوئے کہ ہم نے یہ میدان سر کر لیا. اور یہ ایک ظاہر ایک انسپریشن ہے جو یہاں پہ سننے والے تھے کہ کیسے وہ لے کے جائیں. اور میں نے دیکھ رہا تھا کہ ہال میں بہت سارے اسٹوڈنٹ, میڈیکل اسٹوڈنٹ جو ابھی کام کریں, جو بھی ہیں, ان کو میں دیکھ رہا تھا کہ دے ور ویری انٹرسٹیڈ ٹو ہیئر دی اسٹوریز. وہ ان کو لگ رہا تھا کہ شاید وہ بھی ویسے ہی سمجھ رہے ہیں کہ شاید وہ مشکلات میں تھے, لیکن جب انہوں نے ان ڈاکٹر کی جو اب ایک قابل ایک ریکگنائز پوزیشن پہ ہیں, وہ اپنا شیئر کر رہے تھے, اپنی ورنریبلٹی جیسے شیئر کرتے, تو ان لوگوں کو بھی سیم کنیکشن ان دیئر. میرا خیال ہے یہ ایک فورم میں ایک بڑی زبردست روایت ڈالی ہے فرام دی ایگزسٹنگ پروفیشنلز ٹو دا اپ کمنگ پروفیشنلز. ریسرچ بیس کے حوالے سے مسلمانوں کا کیا کردار ہے, آگے مسلمان کہاں پہ لے کے جائیں گے. I feel very proud. I feel very proud to be a Muslim and part of this gala today. جس سے مجھے اندازہ ہوتا ہے کہ مسلمان فزیشین, اسپیشلی ناؤ آج ہیلتھ کیئر کی ہم بات کریں, بڑی تحقیق کر رہے ہیں, بڑے زور و شور سے کام کر رہے ہیں. وہ ان مشکلوں سے گزرے ہیں, انہوں نے وہ مشکلیں سر کی, وہ ایک مقام پہ آئے اپنے لیے, اپنی فیملی کے لیے. Now they are working for Canada. Now they are working for humanity. Now they are working for a bigger and better roles. کیا خوبصورت بات ہے, کیا خوبصورت بات ہے. اور اس بات پہ میں اپنے پروگرام کا اختتام چاہوں گا. اپنے فیڈ بیک سے آگاہ کیجیے گا اور بتائیے گا کہ آپ کو کیسا پروگرام لگا. دیکھتے رہیے لندن لیونگ ود رضوان. رضوان رشید آپ سے اجازت چاہتا ہے. اللہ حافظ. لے کے جائیں گے